Awesome. Yeah, well, I feel really very humbled and honored to introduce Geoff Fitch, who I consider a teacher, a mentor, a friend, a colleague, coach. Um, I met Geoff about I guess over a little over 3 years ago, and I was a student, a participant in Generating Transformative Change, which is a 9-month program that usually happens outside of Seattle. This year it's in Portland, Oregon, and it's a collective transformational development journey that to me is really embodying and practicing ways of relating to each other, to ourselves, to all of life, and everything in between. With a lot of the meaning making and the maps and the models and the sensibilities and the vibes that folks at Limicon really value and share and celebrate. And so, yeah, it's a way in which a lot of it for me is about kind of finding the simplicity on the other side of all these really gorgeous like conversations that we often have in spaces like this, and then bringing it into direct relationship, into moment to moment present awareness with what is. And Geoff has been such a brilliant, beautiful teacher for many of us, including a few others on this call. Um, and yeah, he and Abigail, his partner in crime and partner in love, have been creating and developing a new model that they're just beginning to release. And I thought it would be um, well received by this community. And so I invited him to come on to the Limicon world and share a bit about that. And then I think we're gonna maybe dive into our practice at the end of the call as well. Um, so Geoff, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Tucker. Mm. And yeah, thank you all for coming and just being together for the next hour and a half and learning together and exploring together. I uh, yeah, I want to maybe just start by tuning in together about this is sort of the part where I ask, what brings you here? But like I just want to tune into our intention together. Um, so, a typical answer to that question is, well, I'm here to learn about the 7 dimensions of awakened wholeness, or I'm here out of curiosity, or I'm here because I like Tucker and he's here, and but just maybe just tune in deeper than that for the moment. Like, what's your deepest intention? Like, if this next hour and a half really mattered, um, what is the significance of that for you? What brings you to Limicon and brings you into these spaces and motivates you at a deeper level? And there's no right or wrong answer to that. It's just a feel into. Maybe it's not even something that you can put into words. So that's part of a practice just to, you know, before we engage into anything is to, like to tune into like, what's this really about? Why are we here? What, how might this be of benefit? Not something to think about, but just really to tune your energy towards. And I, want to invite just if there's a moment, if anyone wants to share what that brings to your heart or mind or awareness. What might our intention together be? Christine, do you want to share something? Why are you
Yes.
here?
Yeah, well, I just came out of a very activating session, lots of energy, and I wanted to come here and ground and rest and soothe. And yeah, Limicon is just all kinds of energies, and it's all exciting and lots of enthusiasm. Um, and there's that wanting to, yeah, just sit, sit cross-legged
Yeah,
with other people. So that's why
yeah,
I'm here today.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's like a beautiful intention, that like the whole world is very stimulating, not just Limicon. So it's an important intention for all of us that we find space and openness and the ability to settle. Yeah, good. May this be a calming time for you. Anybody else want to share an intention or desire? Hey, computer.
Hey there. Nice to see you all. I just discovered this. Glad to be here.
Just sitting with our intention for being here. I'd love to hear from somebody else.
I want to feel a connection to the change of seasons and a connection to other humans. That
Mm,
there's like a longing for that.
mm. Thank you, Art. I love that. Yeah. Where are you located in the world?
I'm in Austin, Texas, and
Mm.
I've been confined to my apartment for the last 5.5 years due to disabilities. And last week, I just left my apartment for the first time in 5.5 years.
Oh, damn.
Whew.
Oh, man, I'm so glad to hear that. So glad to hear that. It touches me. I'm up in Seattle, and in the last few weeks, the birds have arrived, and I just have been really I love the sound of the birds and the arrival of this time of year. So, like, this is something to bring in, like just to include is a part of the wholeness, right? It's including, like not some sort of abstract word wholeness, but actually to include what's here, you know. And yeah, I'm touched by what you said, and may your healing unfold and um, in a good way. All right,
That makes me feel
Kabir.
welcome just to say hi. Yeah, I'm off camera because I'm in bed and stuck that way today, which has got me a little sad, but I'm hanging in there. And my intention, literally, I just discovered this 30 seconds ago, and my intention is really to deepen my appreciation for Geoff, what you all have done around this 7 frames of development model. I hold that as a really precious inquiry, and super, super grateful that you've all been pouring so much life energy into it. I'm really looking forward to being here with you in that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, Kabir and I are longtime friends and partners in this, and everything that we're talking about here today is your voice is very much part of this. And Tucker talked about developing this model. It's really a kind of ongoing way. One of the ways that we talk about our work and and think about it. And it's a kind of iteration of something that's been around for a long time. It's a fairly simple model in some ways, and but it's been really helpful for us. So I'm really happy to be talking with you about that. And I just want to say one other thing before we kind of dive into the content of that. Uh, so um, as Tucker mentioned, the work of Pacific Integral has been an evolving kind of incubator for our own exploration of this unfolding development, awakening in this time. This is really been a collective effort. Dr. mentioned me and Abigail, who are some of the stewards of it now, but there's been many people involved in this over the year, and it's always been a kind of collective project. So, you know, um, dozens of people, contributing to it, some being really significant parents to it. Terry O'Fallon, Dana Carmen, Thomas McConkey, Benita Ramirez, um, yeah, many contributors to it, and also all of you, like what your whatever you bring today will be a part of the unfolding of it. And then there's many kind of lineage streams that we have been gifted by. I um, have a kind of deep history with Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Dzogchen Mahamudra practice, with somatic psychology, with philosophy, just various different streams that are part of my history, Sufism. We all bring those histories. You all are bringing histories to this conversation today. So aside from our intention, I just want to kind of welcome a feeling of everything that's at our backs, like everything that's brought us here today, um, our lineages, our ancestry, our history. Just for a moment, we can't name all of that, but for a moment, just let yourself take in everything that's all the gifts that you've received. That in these conversations and spaces and limicons, we're just passing them on and regifting. So I'm going to just show the model briefly, and then I'm going to kind of give it like a quick naming of it. And then I want to give a little context about how we hold it, and then go into it in a little bit more depth, and then have some time just to explore and practice together. So I'm going to share the screen. I'm trying this new fancy thing where I can put myself on the screen at the same time. There you go. You see that? Never without me. Welcome to my world. Yeah, so there's like 7 dimensions to this. There's this thing in the middle, which we call awaken wholeness, which is in a sense the ground of the framework. And I'm just going to briefly name the 7 dimensions, and I'll take it off the screen and give a little bit more context. But starting at the top, complexity capacity, this is a kind of our, sometimes referred to as vertical development. It's growing our ability to conceive of more complexity and richness in the world, in a sense to depolarize ourselves. There's the dimension of awakening, which is the path of freedom, liberation, awakening from our experience of ourselves into a deeper wholeness. There's integration, which is the inclusivity of all the dimensions of our experience, what's repressed, what's excluded, what's emergent, what's different. And then there's embodiment, which is the path of incarnation, soul expression, which is our gift in the world, our gift of being of benefit, why we're here, our purpose. There's intimacy in relationship, which is, well, you know what that is. It's in some ways the heart of this work. It's opening ourselves to each other. It's becoming skillful and open in relationship. And then there's the whole dimension of engaging with our collective selves, healing and evolving our patterns of what it is to be in a collective, into community, into society. So those are the 7 dimensions. So I'll come back to those and go into them in a bit more detail. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about having models at all. Like there's when Tucker and I were talking about this, you kind of said, well, why does the world need another model? And it doesn't. Um, but like just to step back from what we're doing here for a minute, there's some paradoxes at the heart of this, and they're important. I find that when we find these paradoxes at the heart of our work, it softens us. It helps us include more. And so the first paradox, in a way, um, is that this is a mystery, what we're in. It can't conform to a model or a diagram, or um, can't be reduced to anything like that. So and this points in a way to the ground of the work, which is awakened wholeness, which is our um, wholeness beyond any distinctions. And so the first is just to acknowledge that, in a way, we're taking the mystery and trying to conceive of it, and that brings to another paradox, which is that we have language, but we're working with the ineffable, the undescribable. Um, we're talking about becoming, but we're also in the sense of our own being. And so, um, yeah, so as we work with models, it's important to understand that the models are empty. They're useful, like Ken Wilber said, if you want to get out of prison, it's good to have a good map. And the maps are empty. They're human constructions. And so it's just important, as we use them, to think of it like I think of them, just kind of like a tool, skillful means, but a tool is just a thing that you use in context. And it might be helpful, it might be harmful. Um, it really has to do with, how you use it and how you see it. So as we work with a map, any map, this map, any other map that you're talking about, I just invite you to consider it's not a trip about reality. It's not a dogma. It's not a religion. It's just a tool. And as we use that, it can reveal something. It can be super helpful. And, I've spent a lot of time working with people, and I'm speaking about this from experience, like over and over again, my theories about people, get kind of crashed on the rocks, like, oh, I've got this figured out. And then, no, there's something hidden there. So let's just hold it lightly in that way. And really the intention, I think, using any models, is to be a benefit. So the important thing is like to pay close attention to the world and how it's unfolding, and how our engagement with it is participating in its unfolding, and not to be too caught up in our ideas. Yeah, so I'll just pause there for a moment. Just interested, maybe, if there's anyone who wants to add something to what I just said, or reflect something. Thank you, Kabir, for your heart emoji. Yeah. Yeah, we're learning together. I'm not here. Even what I just said is a model. That models are empty. So, and we're here to learn together. I'd love to hear from you, just if anyone is inspired to say anything.
Hi, Geoff. I'm just coming in a little bit late. Could
Hi.
I see that your model again? I didn't get a chance to really look at it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm about to go into it in more depth. So how about I just do that in a moment? Does that sound good? We'll spend more time on it. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Anyone else before we do that?
I'll jump in and just like, as as you're kind of just starting to lead us through this today, what comes up for me is the like when just to express a real appreciation for your work and your practices and models and the way that you lead them. When I am engaged with this community, I just feel more alive. Like I feel like I'm living my life more deeply. It's more real. It's more, I'm more engaged with others as I move through all of the dimensions that you listed. Again, it's,
Mm,
and again, those are, when we focus on those things, it helps me to, to move more deeply into that dimension. So as you're saying, it's
yeah.
like a tool.
Yeah. Thank you, Jerry. Yeah. And, this, again, this is kind of a way that we think about our work, so it's helpful for us helpful for me to orient. And it's in a way like as we engage in our own development, it can be a kind of way to look at, is there something that's out of balance or something that needs more attention? And yeah, so yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay.
I had one thing come up about, I was just thinking
Yeah.
about Limicon, like Limicon as a word to me is almost a map, like it's pointing to something that I sometimes um, I make very real, like it's this
Hmm.
solid thing called Limicon. But, every Limicon call I've been on has been such a different constellation of humans, such a different vibe, such a different experience. And there's a way in which like freeing Limicon to be this living organism that is unfolding moment to moment and
Mm.
such uniqueness brings like a lot of energy and excitement in my body. And so it's not yeah, like sometimes there's a way in which deconstructing maps or models can feel like, oh, it's all empty or it's kind of nihilistic or something. But there's also a way in which it's like freeing up room for energy and life force to dance and express and reveal its uniqueness and like the mystery, just to be in the mystery.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Tucker. Okay, I'm going to put the model back up. You pronounce your name Loisel? Is that how you pronounce it? Okay, Loisel.
That's
Okay.
funny. You're saying it in like the Filipino way. North American, it's like Loisel, like we put like a Z, but the way you said it is actually like the most perfect. So thanks.
Okay, thank you, Loisel. Okay, let me put the model back up. Look for one other thing on my screen. I'll see it okay. Okay, so I want to touch on yeah, just touch on each of the dimensions. And again, the the sense of awakened wholeness points to the ground of the work. So as we're working with um, unfolding or development or evolution or becoming, we're also aware of a sense of what we're looking for is already right here. So that's bringing in a way you can take an evolutionary perspective, and you can also take a perspective of self-realization, which is the view that what we're looking for is right here, and it's a matter of recognizing it. So we're holding both those. That this ground of awakened wholeness is a way to describe our fruition, but also what's already right here and what we're working towards. And so these seven dimensions, are probably dimensions of kind of development or work or unfolding that you're familiar with. I just want to frame them in the way that we think about them. Um, so complexity, capacity, I'll start with the three on the top. So complexity, capacity, it's sometimes talked about as vertical development or adult development or growth in our capacity to see the world in a more complex way. And how I relate this in a way to the world today is often through the lens of polarization, because we see a lot of polarization in the world. We're trying to find a way in different parts of ourselves or different parts of society to that seem to be polarized to find like a kind of encompassing unification. And this path is, in a way, it's a kind of continuous process of bringing parts together, not just bringing parts together, but then also seeing what transcends and includes those parts, and that's a wider capacity. And it's you can think of it also as kind of our lens of knowing, our way of seeing and interpreting the world. And the practices here are, working with metacognition, meta-awareness, polarity practice. So that's complexity capacity. And I want to jump across to integration, which is, this is the realm of a healthy embrace and inclusion of all of our parts. It's the realm of recovering what's lost or repressed or hidden, or unseen or emergent. It's the realm of shadow work, of cultivating our capacity to have greater difference and inclusion, of healing. It's also, in a sense, an exploration. To me, it includes an exploration of all aspects of life, of inclusion, which includes our non-ordinary selves, our multidimensionality. It's like integrating our wholeness. And between complexity, capacity, and integration, it's really kind of about our relative wholeness, our sense of this world and embracing all of it and all of our own parts. And then the path of awakening is the path of liberation. It's the path of release, of simplicity, of freedom. You might say the dimension of absolute wholeness, of our essential selves, of our encountering our boundless, timeless, centerless being as our true nature, our essence. That's the three on the top that really are at the heart of this awakened wholeness. And then I want to bring in embodiment and soul expression. Just pause for a moment. Just let what's already been said to kind of land. So embodiment is about incarnation. It's about embracing and fully embodying and being our self in the world. It's about, at some level, it's about our freeing our physicality and our energy and our aliveness. And to me, it's also about, like, when we think about incarnation, it's about incarnating into this life. It's at a kind of deeper level. It's about agreeing to be here, to have a truthful relationship to the circumstances of your life, like to agree to be not just here. I mean, at the deepest level is just to existentially agree to exist, but also to exist in this time, in history, in this place, in this context, in your communities, in your life as it's given, with your bills and your goals and your desires and your aliveness. So it's all of that. And as you incarnate, you come into the body, into your energy, into this being, and the body awakens and opens and frees itself. So that's the realm of embodiment. And it's really closely related to soul expression. That there's that if we agree to be, in our lives, we find that we're here for a reason. We're not just here to be, but we're here to express ourselves, to show up, to 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 at a deeper level than just our day-to-day existence, to find a sense of purpose, which can be felt as something that's deeply moving us beyond our ordinary self. That's um, that's neither our personal plan or God's plan, but it's something really unique to ourselves that we're here to bring, that situates itself somewhere in between, and that creates a kind of um, existential rub to show up in the world and have our life be of meaning. So that's kind of in a way a little bit of a philosophical way of describing this, but in practical purposes, in practical circumstances, in practice, in practice, there's a kind of, and Tucker, you can add to this if you want. To me, this is about ensoulment. It's about your soul coming alive, and in your awareness. It's about what in Buddhism you might call bodhicitta, about enlightened intention expressing itself in the world. But it's also about like enacting and experimenting and entrepreneurship, and like grappling with that in the real world and finding out how that expresses itself in your relative life. So it's a very practical thing too, that we to support each other with. You want to add to that, Tucker? Or anything?
Um, I'll say this is me speaking on behalf of me. I don't know if you
Please
necessarily,
do.
Geoff. I almost see
Let's
it.
have it out.
You said awakening is about liberation, right? And I almost feel like
Mhm.
soul expression is kind of, experientially speaking, somewhat the opposite, where it's almost a
Mm,
bodhisattva vow to be here, like to fully be
mm,
here, regardless of what's happening, as our uniqueness that is of service to the world. And in that way, there's a responsibility, it's not always fun to live, fully embodied in our soul essence, or in our soul dharma. There's a sense of a karmic kind of like responsibility that comes with that might sometimes be not what the personality structure is desiring in that moment, but there's a deeper essence that is asking us to show up a certain way, and that feels really real. There's a very real dimension to that. Like it's a tactile, tangible way of relating to reality, that when held with the liberation of awakening and with maybe a cognitive complexity that can sort of hold both simultaneously, there's a real sweet spot, but it's not all bliss and sunshine and unicorns, awakened wholeness in my experience. But maybe that's just because I haven't evolved enough yet.
No, I love what you said. So good. Yeah, so good. No, it's so true. Yeah. It's that's beautiful. It's there's this thing that um I think Dan Brown used to say, is like in Buddhism, there's this wisdom and compassion, these two dimensions, and the wisdom in a sense is the awakening, the enlightenment. The compassion is is the natural consequence of that is to see the world as it is and want to serve others to awaken. And Dan used to say, like, the enlightenment is for you, but the compassion is for everybody else. And that, to me, what you're saying kind of speaks to that, that this what you're called here to bring into the world is not really about your own liberation. It's about liberating the world through your own gifts and your own unique expression. And yes, yeah, that's not that's that's not necessarily, easy or fun, or but when you attune to that movement in yourself, you can trust the movement. You can learn to trust that movement and to align with it and to follow it, and and to know that there's a kind of deeper knowing that's guiding you, that has your back, even if all your parts are kicking and screaming at times. Yeah. That respond to what you said, Tucker? Does that fit?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So the last two that I want to touch on are the intimacy and relationship, and collective. So these two might seem like, oh, the rest of it's about you and this is about us, and uh, yeah, in a little bit of a way, but it's really it's the whole thing is about I and we, and like, as a collective we can grow in our complexity. As a collective we can awaken. As a collective we can include more and embody and express ourselves. But there's some unique distinctions and kind of orientation that we also include in these parts. So um, intimacy and relationship in some ways is at the heart of our work. Our friend, we were in a retreat, and our friend Scott, made this statement. He said, this is about real relationship. I didn't sign up for this. And at the heart, Christine, you're smiling. And just at the heart of this is really, to me, like the deepest work in a sense. In part because, as we all know, it's like one of the hardest knots to untie on ourselves. Our shadow, our separation, our alienation. We get trained in that in relationship, and so the space of intimacy and relationship is really at the heart of it, and it's the fluid that allows everything else to move. And just as it's about becoming more differentiated, becoming ourselves, becoming more connected in that, becoming more awake in relationship, and also more skillful in relating to ourselves, to each other, to the world. And yeah, I just I'm just remembering a moment, where this really came true to me. And, if you think about, like, well, what does relationship have to do with awakening? This is years ago. We were in a GTC retreat, and I don't know if any of y'all know this guy Rolly Stanich, but he was in the integral community for years. He's a beautiful soul and friend, and Rolly was kind of participating in this retreat and offering something which was around sort of the first, second, and third face of spirit, and he was talking about his own kind of experience of integral Christianity and his own awakening. And he told this kind of state experience he had of the kind of his relationship to the divine, where I can't remember the details, but he was like sitting on a mountaintop and in in the Holy Lands or something like that, and he had this intense experience of divine love. And he said, it was in that moment that I realized that I was the beloved. And it just moves me just to remember that. And it kind of shocked me to hear that because, you know, that term, the beloved, in spiritual circles and Sufism and so on is often in my language and thinking, meaning, you know, God. And what he was saying, she realized he was the one that was loved. And after his talk, I went back to my room that night and I just sobbed for like 45 minutes because I realized like I never imagined me to be the one that's loved. I was always like loving other people and loving the divine and loving everything, but like, am I the one that's loved? And after I sort of like dried myself off, you know, and thought about it, I realized like, oh, you know, like this is my relationship stuff at the heart of my path of like waking up, right? It's easy for me to love you than it is for me to take in your love. And and so it just this was an example of to me like how this all relates, how all of these pieces fit together. I'm still working on that. So that's intimacy and relationship. And finally, the collective is it's our evolving our our being together in our in a way it's our being together as a we, you know, as a collective, as a collective whole, and also in our individuality without contradiction. So it's growing our model of of self and collective to something larger that includes that. In a way, it's our cultivating our post-conventional tribal selves, our transcending our patterns of family and collective and our mental models about that we grew up with. It's learning how, as a collective, to become more aware, more whole, more embodied, um, to find coherence and intelligence in the I and the we, um, to become more complex as a collective. And to me, this is so important for our communities and our human family um, to learn to get along at a deeper level, at a more rich level. So that's what that is. I'm going to just pause here and take it off screen share. Maybe we'll just like take a moment to breathe. Just, yeah, take a moment to let it soften a bit, to just loosen a bit, kind of land back in this present moment. And I want to invite us into to have a little breakout group, just to have some time to process together. And I'm going to offer a way to do that uh, and an inquiry. And in a way, you can take the inquiry and run with it. Use it as a container, or if you want to use it as a looser inspiration and explore something for yourself with someone else, you can do that. And the inquiry is to explore your experience. This is relating to wholeness. So to explore your and reflect on your experience of incompleteness. What's that like for you? Whatever that evokes. And to explore your experience of wholeness. So I'm just going to drop this in the chat. We'll go into pairs. And this will just give us a chance to explore together. So, and then we'll come back and just have some time to discuss. So you'll have about 8 minutes each just to explore these two dimensions of what it's like, what's your experience of being incomplete. Make space for that. And what's your experience of wholeness? So looks like we have a odd number, and if you want, Tucker, you can join one of them, and I can sit out or whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Sorry, just to confirm, you're saying dyads?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, okay. There we go.
You put 1 and 3. Okay, cool. Okay. So
Do you want to pause the recording?
yeah.